Hey everybody, this is Chris Bucci, aka Spida1a here on YouTube, and I'm joined by...
Who you joined by? That's my part where I come in and say, Johnny Millennium. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, this is Johnny. You might have heard of him, the HappyConsoleGamer. He only has a few subscribers, so I thought maybe we could kind of boost his viewership here by doing this for him. I hope this works out for you, Johnny.
I appreciate that, Chris, but the one thing that I just want to say right now is that I am your biggest fan. People will say that they're your big fans of you, but I am your biggest fan. I really am.
Well, thanks, Johnny. I appreciate it. You know, it's likewise. I wanted to do something a little bit different here, which is a commentary track of sorts for my episode number 100 of TurboViews, because episode 100 was also a little bit different. And I thought it'd be kind of cool just to reminisce with you about the making of this episode, talk with you about the TurboGrafx, about Double Dungeons, and kind of what the genesis was for this episode and what we did in order to sort of collaborate and get it done. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's great. Absolutely.
What is your sort of quick history with the TurboGrafx? Because we both had them as kids, which was kind of rare. We both have a similar sort of background with it, and I'd like to kind of give them an overview of how you grew up with the system.
Wow, absolutely. You know, we were coming off the NES, and then I opened up a video game magazine, and I saw the PC Engine, and it had these credit card size games, and I was like, oh my god, you can put them in your pocket and just go over to your friend's place. And I saw that they had a lot of arcade conversions on this Japanese machine. That's what the PC Engine is. And then I found out that we were getting a version of it called the TurboGrafx. And what sold it for me was when I saw that CD-ROM attachment and Easebooks 1 and 2. We called it Wise back then. And I had played the Master System version of Wise. And I was like, oh my god, we're getting, you know, the first game and the second game of Wise, at the time I called it, on this TurboGrafx CD. I gotta get this. This is incredible. So, Chris, I started bugging my parents. I can't believe they bought it for me.
I got my TurboGrafx in July of 1991, and I got my CD-ROM system that Christmas. And this is actually kind of a poignant story now. With Toys R Us closing here in the United States, it's very, very sad. And I can tell you that the Toys R Us that I actually just visited today, because they have a wall up where you can write a note, and all these kids are writing notes and saying goodbye to Jeffrey. It's really sad.
Yeah.
I was just visiting the one here where I live. This Toys R Us is the same place I got my CD-ROM system, because not many places in my area anyway actually sold TurboGrafx stuff at all. I couldn't just go to Kmart and get a TurboGrafx CD-ROM system. And, you know, you and I have talked about these memories before, but I remember going to the TurboGrafx section, grabbing the little ticket that was sitting in that pouch, and bringing it up to the front and paying for it. And you remember, at Toys R Us, they used to be behind this magical wall. You couldn't see where the employees were going when they'd go and get your game after you paid for it. You know, and the TurboGrafx CD box was so humongous that they had to come out the side door and hand it to me because it was too big. And that thing, I remember, because I was small at the time. You know, I was, let's see, 90.
Yeah, those things seem bigger, right?
It was huge. I remember going, how is this even going to fit in the car, Mom? This is crazy. So I have a real special attachment to Toys R Us and the CD-ROM system.
To be honest, my house was the hub of the nerdy community, if you want to call it. People, like, honestly, I remember having all of my G.I. Joe Transformer friends when we were all like a secret club in high school, because, you know, you didn't want to tell anybody you were into that stuff back in the 80s, 90s, early 90s anyways. And I remember them all coming over and playing Street Fighter 1. And it was a really big deal, and playing Final Zone 2's awful audio, and how we all laughed and cringed but loved it, you know?
Yeah, and then you toss in stuff like the Bonk series and all that was actually like extremely solid. And there's a lot of great shooters on the system, which I'm a fan of. Some of the RPGs, like even like Cosmic Fantasy and stuff, those are great. There's a lot of great stuff.
There is, in the Newtopia 1, Newtopia 2,
Newtopia. I love Newtopia and Kadash.
Yeah, we could actually probably talk for about an hour and a half about all of the games and go through everything.
Probably. So let's switch gears just a titch. I want to get into the game Double Dungeons before we talk about the review. And I want to connect this to what you just told me about your history with the TurboGrafx. Can you tell everybody, and I'll do the same, what your history, because mine's easy, what your history is with Double Dungeons from when you were a kid and to today. I just want to set up, what's going on with that for people.
It's really funny because my family, we went on a vacation. We drove down to San Francisco from Vancouver, and I had a little bit of spending money that I'd saved up from the whole year. And I got down there and I was like, oh, I'm going to buy some games for the TurboGrafx and for my Genesis. And I bought Budokan, and I bought Final Fantasy, and I bought Double Dungeons. And I thought Double Dungeons was going to be the standout game of these. I thought, I can't wait to get back and play, Double Dungeons. It's going to be like Phantasy Star. I can't wait. And go figure, it was Final Fantasy on the NES that was the glowing game out of that trio. And I tried to play Double Dungeons and get as much out of it as I could. And it was such a disappointment that summer for me. How about you?
Well, mine's easy. I never played the game as a kid. I remember seeing screenshots in Turbo Play, which I subscribed to immediately after I got my system and loved, because it was kind of like, I don't know if you ever used to read that, but that was like the Nintendo Power for the TurboGrafx in a way,
I have a lot of the issues for sure.
Yeah, same here, and I loved the exclusivity of that. But so I remember seeing Double Dungeons and some screenshots and people talking about it, and it looked like something that might be a fun little dungeon crawler. But it just was one that never crossed my path. And if you know me, you know that like when I was younger, I had a lot of games, and I started actually kind of collecting them once they went on clearance and stuff too. And I still never ended up picking that up. I didn't get Double Dungeons until somewhere around 2002, 2003 when I was trying to complete my TurboGrafx collection, and I never played it until I did this review.
Well, was there a reason why you didn't play it?
Honestly, no. I just never grabbed it and never played it. I think, like when you're trying to be a completist of something, you're not really putting the stuff ahead of the line that you want to play or that you necessarily want to own. You're just trying to get everything. More than likely, Double Dungeons was one, and I can't remember. My memory's a little fuzzy. It's probably one that I got in a group of a couple or a few at one point, and I played maybe one of the others, and then, and in fact, at that time, I wasn't even playing them all that much. I was just collecting them more than anything.
Yeah, it's so funny. There's a lot of people out there who have enjoyed Double Dungeons, and for all those people, I want to say that is fantastic. I'm really glad that you got something out of the game. I'm honestly not just bashing it for the sake of bashing it to be funny or something like that online. I really genuinely didn't like the game at the time.
Yeah, and I could understand that. And I never have a problem with someone enjoying something that I don't, or vice versa. It's just so I'm with you. So you actually have a history when you were younger with Double Dungeons, which leads me to an episode that I remember specifically. And this is going to get us to the genesis of the idea for our collaboration for this video. You did a video one time, I think it was Games That I Hate, if I remember correctly, or it was titled something similar. And Double Dungeons was on that list, and that's when you first mentioned that you used it to hold up the video game shelf.
But I am nostalgic for it. You can dislike a game, but like it. And I think a lot of people miss that point that I don't like playing Double Dungeons, but I love the game. I even bought the Japanese game, and at the time I'm like, this is the #1 game I gotta talk about. So it really worked out and well, and especially, Chris, it's still holding up the shelf really well.
Yeah, it seems to be.
It's magical. It's magical.
I was thinking about episode 100, and I thought, I want to do something different to sort of celebrate getting to 100 Turbo Views episodes. I mean, obviously, we've done import reviews, we've done some on-camera extras, and other things too. So there's more than 100 actual videos on the channel related to the TurboGrafx, but the actual mission of TurboView to review one of every American game. We're at number 100, or we were getting close to it. I think I was somewhere in the 80s maybe when I thought, I want to do something special for the 100th whenever the hell I get there because it takes me forever. What do I want to do? And that's when that light bulb went off in my head. And I remembered that I had that Double Dungeons and Johnny in the back of my mind. And I went, I wonder if I asked you, and I think this was a long time ago we talked about this originally.
Right.
I believe I talked to you briefly about, hey, would you be interested in doing a collaborative thing where somehow you're involved in Double Dungeons and then there's like a second opinion kind of in the mix, no matter how I end up swaying the review. And if I remember correctly, you said yes. This was a long time ago. Do you remember this conversation, or am I clouded?
No, I absolutely remember you talking about it, but I thought, oh, I wonder when this is going to happen, and then it didn't happen for a little bit. And the thing that I was nervous about was it is your channel, and I tune in to watch you, and I really didn't want to taint the review. I didn't,
I had that also in the back of my mind when I was crafting the idea for the episode, that I still wanted it to be a traditional episode of TurboViews, because TurboViews is what it is. There's a certain formula to it that's been going on, so I didn't want to change it. It's not a skit-based review show or anything like that, and I didn't want to turn it into one necessarily. So that's why when I finally got to Double Dungeons, okay, here we go. Little bit equals years later. I finally said, all right, let me create the story for this. I remember thinking, I want to play the game first. Then I want to write my review as if you're not in it at all. I want to make it clear that I played the game and I wrote, and I have a script floating around here that is a traditional episode of TurboViews. That's me playing Double Dungeons. It's me writing the review and saying it exactly as I would normally, and giving it the 2-star out of 5 rating that I gave it. So HappyConsoleGamer is not in the original pass. And then I went back and I rewatched your episode I hate thing. The games I hate episode. I actually went back and rewatched it, and I made notes of some key phrases you used in that episode to then write your segments into the video.
Wow.
So that's because I wanted it to be at least your voice, but that was the script for you was kind of based on what you had said previously, but I did not visit your part of it until after I already wrote the review, just for an integrity standpoint, I guess.
That is unbelievable that you put in that much effort into that. It's wonderful.
Well, this series is special to me, and the people who have stuck with it for a long time, even when I disappear for months and months at a time because of my life and the way it goes. I appreciate that, and I wanted to keep that integrity intact,
I thought the episode was phenomenal. The original idea was that I was going to green screen myself to begin with. And then all of a sudden it became an upper body shot to an entire body shot. And I said, Chris, I don't have the green screen or the ability to do that. I actually broke my kitchen table, moving it out of the way. No joke. And Chris felt so bad to try to use it against a wall, a white wall, to film myself. That didn't work. And then we kind of collaborated that maybe just my wife took all these photographs of me and to digitize them. And I think that worked even better, didn't it?
Yeah, that was a great idea. I actually wanted to talk about that because now we're getting into the sort of making of the episode. Yeah, the original idea that I had was that you would be in video. You would be a live action video person in front of a green screen. I was always going to sort of digitize you and make you look a little bit 8-bit. I mean, I'm not a master of every graphics thing in the world, but I wanted to make you look a little bit more like the graphics in the game. But I had originally envisioned you actually just being Johnny within the game because you physically are stuck in the game. For reasons that you mentioned, because you dug so deep into the code to find something good in there and you couldn't even find anything good in there. So that was kind of like the idea behind it. And then I remember you saying you didn't have a green screen and it wasn't working out. And you actually came up with the idea of the individual photos. And I remember you saying, now, that's going to be a lot of work. I just want you to know that. But I think it would create a nice look. And I think it was a great idea. And I appreciated Kim and you guys spending the time taking the photos. Can you tell us a little more about that shoot and how you were able to pull those photos off?
Yeah. The great thing is Kim, my wife, she's a professional photographer. So I told her exactly what we needed and all that. So she set up the entire room. lit it all perfectly and really professionally. And I went in there, and I highlighted in the script that you gave me if I was standing, what I was doing, all the different actions I would have to do. So standing there looking at the ceiling, and we took 150 photos that night. And I was just like, oh my God. And they were honestly they were gigantic size. We shrank them down when we sent them to you, but they were like 4K in size. They were like wall posters, if not bigger than that. They were massive. So the quality was great. And then we shrunk them down and sent you all the ones that I thought would be the key frames. And what was amazing is when I saw you piece them all together, I just was like, oh my God, you made it into animation at times. It was really nice.
Do you remember how long it took you to shoot all those?
Yeah, for the setup and everything, about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Was she reading off the key frames? Okay, now do shocked, do angry. Here's your line here. Or did you just read down it and then do it yourself?
Well, what we did is I had little markers on the ground where my feet should be at all times. So I didn't move out of that space of light and everything that she'd set up. And I would just reach out, grab the script off the floor that was just in front of that, and go, okay, I'm really angry. And I'm like, what is angry? So like looking up at the sky and put my head on, I'm frustrated. And I just acted all of those different moments out. And yeah, and it was just like, I'm thinking, I hope this is going to work for Chris. I hope he's like, because I'm giving it back to you now. The Photoshop work on those must have been a lot of work.
If it's on the green screen and it's lit a certain way, you can cut things out pretty easily. What I ended up doing was I did one as an example, remember, and I sent it to you just to show you how I thought it was going to look. Yeah. And I realized after doing it, okay, this is going to take a long time. So then I tried to create a workflow of what's the easiest way to do this so I'm not wasting so much time and I can keep the project moving forward. Because again, at this time too, man, I had to play because I do a lot of theaters. I had a lot of theater. I had that going on, and obviously full-time work. And so I knew I was only going to have a little bit of time here and there to do this. So what I did was I took the photos, I laid down your audio, and actually we'll have to talk about that too, but you actually sent me then your cut of the audio first before the photos even came in. I think you did that first, right? I sent you the script, yeah. And then you...
I sat in my games room and I had the script and I just acted. And do you know what was really weird? I pretended that you were there. And I really was trying to feel you there and almost as a director. So I would do the lines like as though you were standing there. And isn't that funny? I had to get into that mindset to do the delivery right.
No, I can understand that because I remember we actually met up on Skype before it just to sort of read through together.
This is Johnny Millennium, and I'm getting ready to do my dialogue for you, great director. And I'm just going to start right now. Hey man, thank God you're here. You'll get a new story via a still text screen, and it'll just throw you... Okay, this is on 2 different pieces of paper. That's all right. Same graphics, same crap, different day. The whole thing is just repetitive. Oh my God, I can't say the word. Repetitious. I don't think a lot of people who would watch that episode or watch any of our episodes that we do will realize sometimes the amount of work behind the scenes.
Yeah, this one definitely took a long time. It was worth it though. So yeah, so the process was the script was written. I added you into it. I sent you the script, and I remember you liked it. And there were a couple parts where I said, here, Johnny, feel free to ad-lib here or add your own personality here, which you did. You did a great job just to kind of pad it out because I wanted your voice in there too. I didn't want to, I didn't want to write for you. So I thought, you know what? There's no point in me cutting out all 150 of these if I don't use them all. And there are times where I only have you from the waist up, so maybe I don't have to cut the feet out for this one, because that also took a while to trim.
That's half the work right there.
Exactly, because I also would have to trim around the feet and things like that. So what I did was I took the photos, and all I did was cut sort of, I guess, a temporary storyboard with your audio and my audio of how I envisioned it within, because remember, then I composited it into the Double Dungeons frame and did some other things with it. But I wanted to figure out, okay, which ones do I want to use? And I did that first, and that took a long time. But then what it allowed me to do was narrow down. Okay, these are the ones I need, and this is what I need to cut out. So then I cut out all the ones a first quick pass, all the ones that I ended up using. Then I composited them all into the frames and everything that needed to go. The third and final pass to cut out all the extraneous, gunk and stuff around the edges I did last. But I also did that after I added like the digital effect and a little bit of mosaic tiling and stuff like that in order to make it look sort of 8-bit, which actually saved me because it's sort of harder edged. I didn't have to be as precise, pixel perfect, because there was always going to be a little bit of jagged edge to the way that you looked anyway when you were standing there. But yeah, that was kind of the process. So
I thought it was going to be fun, but like when it all came together and you showed me what you had done, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. But then I was so worried. I'm like, oh man, there needs to be less of me. I remember just thinking there needs to be less of me in this episode, and you edited it down quite a lot, and you got the director's cut, we'll say.
I think it has a really nice pace to it now because it's a little longer than a normal episode. But I figure, your sections are a few minutes, and the rest of the episode is like a normal review.
Well, I think it's such a wonderful thing that we got to work together finally on a great game like Double Dungeons and have a little bit of fun, and that'll be always something that me and you will, have together, and that's the one thing that I'm really happy about.
Well, I appreciate that, and thanks for all the work that you did. Okay, boss time. Come on, you. Again, this one strayed a little bit from the normal episode because the episode actually starts with the 100 manuals flipping through.
I'm watching that, yeah.
Which I utilized as a teaser on Instagram and Facebook and stuff before the episode was done. And it's funny when you look at all those, man, oh man, some of those manuals are from a time that it was a different time in my life even. And it was really, really cool. Oh, and by the way, at the very beginning here, when I talk about some games get lost in the shuffle, and you see all those games kind of piled up in a stack, every one of those games I still have yet to do. That's the pile of turbo views that still needs done. So if you, and at the end of the episode, when I take the game and put it back on the shelf, it goes on the shelf with games that have already been done. So it was kind of supposed to be a bookend. I don't know if it really came through, but you remember there was actually a deleted scene that never made it into the final cut, where I put the game back on the shelf at the very end, and then the game would kind of shake and shimmer inside the case and then fall off the ledge and onto the ground, and you would hear your voice go, "Oh, son of a beep," or something like that, as if you were trying to escape the game and it didn't work out. And it's funny, I have it filmed. I actually have those segments filmed, and I have a cut of it. It just didn't work. It was, yeah. I think the reason why it didn't work is because my initial idea was that you were stuck in the game and you were trying to get out of the game. But then we sort of dropped that to, you're stuck in the game and this is just the way it is, and I'll see you when you come back. So I think that's why it didn't really work, that you were trying to escape, because you hadn't tried to escape the entire episode.
Well, that's exactly, you do all this extra work and all this extra footage, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like making something out of clay. You just keep getting rid of all the excess stuff, and then you get down to what you really, really want. Oh,
I edit turbo views in standard definition. I still do to this day. And then I up-convert it to HD, because that's the way the series has always been. It's in 4:3, and it's in standard def up-converted. And I know that's a little bit backwards, probably, in thinking, but it's kind of to me, it's the charm of the series still. Whether you think it's the charm or a hindrance, I don't know. But it seems like a lot of people like that.
I think it's great. It's a form of consistency. So when somebody gets all of the DVDs that you're doing, from the beginning ones to when you will finish this series, and you will finish it, goddammit, that it will all be one consistent look, and that's great.
And then, yeah, and so then that also helped me, because then I was able to, again, not have to be as pixel perfect with cutting you out, because I knew it was going to be standard def. So it was going to be just a little blurry on the edges. And you know the part where I attack you in the video?
Yes.
I went frame by frame with the Double Dungeons game when you actually attack something, and I copied it frame by frame the way the game actually does it when you attack something. There's like a couple frames of red, then there's a couple frames of white behind the character, and then there's a couple frames of red, because I wanted it to look just like the game. And I almost wish we had done that again. Somehow I wanted to attack you a second time.
You can attack me now, Chris. It's totally good. I can handle it. I think there's a white and red flash going on in my room here.
Yeah, probably. A lot of people seem to respond well to it. I'm glad that they enjoyed it. I don't know if you heard a lot of stuff on your end at all.
Everybody loved it. Everybody loved it. They thought it was great. And honestly, it was one of those things. I had so many episodes I was working on myself, and then this secret one came out that you did, and it was like, wow. And I felt to myself, I'm like, man, you know, me and Chris, we love this stuff. That's why we do it.
And holy password. This will take a while. Sometimes you fade it in, sometimes you pop in from the bottom or from the side, just to make it a little more interesting, because I sort of figured if you're inside the game, you also have a little bit of control over the game, so you can appear where you want, and little icons can appear because you're making them happen. It's almost like you're a magical character within this game.
Chris, this is like the ultimate nightmare. Not only did I dislike this game, then all of a sudden I'm reprogramming the game within the game. That's insanity.
Yeah, unfortunately you can't change the game. You can only kind of tweak it a little bit. You're stuck forever.
I would give it a better ending, a better beginning, a better middle, and more characters. And oh my god, the list goes on of what I could have added to this game. I did like the girl in the shop.
Yes.
I thought she was pretty cool. I wanted more stuff like that.
The last addition to the script was the part where you talk about that you trapped yourself into the game in order to find something of value in it. Because I always wanted a reason as to why you were in the game, even if it was a throwaway line, because it doesn't matter if it makes sense. Who cares? We're just having fun here. But for some reason, I wanted a reason why you were in there, remember? And I remember talking with you about it, and then finally just sending a line your way and asking if you can cut it. And I'm sort of glad we did, because then it just kind of, it gives your character a purpose for being in there and why you're actually stuck inside of it. Because if you hate the game so much, why would you be in there?
Yeah, exactly. That's it's insanity, right?
Yeah. I hope, you know, if somebody's actually like reading into the actual story, you know, I hope they're I hope they're happy with where it went. And that picture of the game holding up a video game shelf, again, I got that from your original story about that. Can you tell us about how did that end up holding up your shelf? In the first
well, you know, when I first started the show, I piled all of my games onto the shelves, and then some of the comments were, oh my god, one of your shelves looks like it's going to burst, it's going to fall down, and it's buckling under the weight of all the other games. And I saw kind of what you were talking about, but I was like, I knew it wasn't going to, but I was like, huh. And so I don't even know why I did this, grabbed Double Dungeons. It just made sense. And I got an old tube, and I stuck it in there, and I put Double Dungeons on there just to reinforce it. And I knew Double Dungeons wouldn't get wrecked or anything. I thought it'll just hold it nicely. And then, when I was doing the episode of Games I Hate, I was like, oh my god, I can show them what I've done to Double Dungeons. It's like brutal what I've done to the game, but I thought it was funny, and it kind of enhanced the episode, being able to show you that, yes, this is the fate of games that I don't like.
Now, was Double Dungeons, it just happened to be handy when you were looking at it, or did you make a conscious effort? Oh yeah, this is the one I want to torture a little bit and put between the shelf.
Oh, I knew that I definitely wanted Double Dungeons on there. I went to my TurboGrafx pile, I took it off and said, yep, you're going right there, and this is perfect. This makes total sense. And it's still there, Chris. It's been on the shelf nearly for 9 years, holding up the other video games of worth.
I figured that the fans of your show would get that sort of inside joke, and if they didn't, then it would just be a funny joke within the episode.
One of the other things I was playing with when I first started the show was that the game shelf should be full of Easter eggs and funny little things, you know, like certain things are holding up the shelves and certain things are off to the side, and there's all these secret meanings in there. And then after a while, I was like, John, you're thinking way too much. Just talk about video games. You can get on with it. So, Chris, I gotta ask, do you have the Japanese version of Double Dungeons?
No, I do not. I never actually ran across that particular one. Is it any different, or is it the same thing?
I'll just say this. I hated the game so much that I loved it that I needed to buy the Japanese version all those years later. The only thing that is different is the box art is a little bit better. But you know what? I'm nostalgic about that terrible box art that they show there with that, that dog creature and the skeleton, and it's really brightly lit and doesn't look menacing at all. It's like I could just go there and have a cup of tea with those things. I mean, it wasn't scary at all.
Yeah, I don't I played the game quite a bit. You can kind of see in the footage that I beat a number of dungeons. I got pretty far into the game. I skipped to some of the later dungeons and got through them. I played for hours and hours and hours. But I kind of felt the same way as you in that the repetition of it caught up really quickly. If the dungeons had varied more and there was a lot of different stuff in there, I think I would have liked it more, but because it was essentially the same thing almost every time, it just got old really quick.
I think what could have saved Double Dungeons when I look at it now would have been an overworld hub map where you talk to like a king or something like that. You can buy weapons in a little town and then you go into the dungeons, kind of like Shining in the Darkness. And I think that would have really helped it out. But because it was just, you're straight into dungeons, it got really like, oh, I'm just here all the time. It didn't feel like I was part of a world. I was just in a dungeon. It was just a dungeon hack. It's so nostalgic. It's just absolutely amazing, the passage of time. And little did I know back then when I was playing Double Dungeons and my hate for it, that one day we would be celebrating it. And quite literally, that's what we're doing with your episode.
Okay, well, I think we touched upon everything you can think of. What do you think, Johnny?
I think we got everything, Chris. It was really awesome.
Well, I appreciate again your help, and this was a lot of fun, and thanks for joining me for this little commentary on the making of Double Dungeons. And for those of you out there in YouTube land, I will see you soon.
Thanks, Chris.